I'm so excited to have Eugene Starks today with me on the podcast. We've had a bit of a few technical hiccups, so this is nothing short of a miracle that we're here today together. Eugene is one of my personal inspirations because he seems to have a very balanced work and life balance. So thank you, Eugene, for joining. For those of you who may not know Eugene, he is the principal at Acuity Group. It's an employee benefits consulting and brokerage company. He has a great story of how he has grown Acuity Group into the company it is today and kind of where he started and where it came from. So we're going to talk about, one of the things I told you prior to this, Eugene, is that the know, grow, and scale model that I've kind of decided is a really proven way for businesses to look at growth really can be woven into any entrepreneur story. And so today I kind of want to talk through your story and how you realized the no phase, which is what, who you were as a company, what you wanted to do, what inspired you to do that, and then how you kind of set yourself for the grow and scale phase through hiring, through, we know there's always bumpy roads when it comes to that. So can you just kind of walk us through your early days of entrepreneurship, what that looked like, what made you realize that entrepreneurship might be for you versus an 8 to 5 working for somebody else? And I always say there's no wrong way to do your professional life, but I think there's something special about entrepreneurs. So I'd love to kind of hear your early days and what got you excited about starting a business.
Well, I appreciate that. I've always said, one of these days I'm going to write a book, The Reluctant Salesman, because I really kind of, not fell into it, but I really, in my life, I tried working for other people. And if you will, kind of sort of the easy button, not as, everything's framed up for you. You just got to show up and do your job.
Mm-hmm.
And, but there was always a discontentment. There was always, I was successful, particularly the last place I worked, helping an HMO startup. It was exciting. I learned so much there. But after that, I went out, basically took a job with another company to help them grow an HMO. And within a few months, I knew that wasn't the right fit. I wasn't in the right place. And so I did some consulting work, really wasn't quite officially opening my business. I was able to do some consulting work while I was kind of looking for another job. And I just, came home one day and told my wife, Lori, it's like, I'm going to open my own business. I've watched these people do it and I know I can do it better than them.
And I love how you just said, because I think we sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like there's a script and you have to have a date where you cut off, one side of your 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever, and then you start doing this. But a lot of times, and even more times than not, it looks like a consulting gig while you're working full time somewhere else. And I also love that you just said you had not been there very long and you realized that was not for you, because I know for me personally, I feel like after my second child, I made the decision to go back full time and, thinking after a few months, well, what if I wanted to stay as an entrepreneur? What if this is not the right decision? Well, that's okay.
Right.
It's okay to change your mind a few months in and pivot. And I think sometimes we feel like I decided to do this, so you have to do that always. And that's not always the case. So what did that side hustle look like? What did the consulting look like, and how did you do both? Did you do both for a while, or did you have a hard cutoff?
I really, I did, I left the place. I said it wasn't a good fit. I consulted with two other groups that were trying to build out PPO networks, which was kind of the business I was in, PPOs and HMOs. And but even at that, it just wasn't my own thing, and it wasn't. I didn't see a long-term path. And I'd worked with so many independent brokers, consultants in the HMO business, because I ran all of the client services for our large HMO in New Orleans. And so I had the interface with all of these agents. And what I found is we were doing all the work for them, and we were telling them how things work, and so I thought, golly, I know more than they do.
Right.
you know,
Right.
and I'm working, somebody setting my salary, so
Right.
So I literally came home and the HMO I worked for actually really went out of business. They just, they were bought, but, essentially they were bought because they,
And
didn't
fizzled. Yeah.
revenue. Yeah. Not the right revenue, I mean, just, still a great experience, but I just told my wife I'm tired of other people deciding when I'm going to work and how much I'm going to make.
Yeah.
And I said, look, this may work or it may not, but if we're getting let go or whatever, it's one client at a time, so we
Yeah.
see it coming.
Right. Right.
So I just saw it as a more sustainable pattern, and it would just give me more control. Not that I'm a control freak, but
Yeah.
everything seemed to be happening outside of me, and I had to respond.
I think
Uh,
that is, although you say you're not a control freak, but I do feel like a similarity for all. I mean, something that's got to be consistent for entrepreneurs at any level is that you want some element of control, whether it's your schedule or, for me, I might be working twice as hard, but I can at least work on my time, or go pick up a kid if I need to. What was your family situation like when you decided to make
oh,
the did you have
timing.
young kids?
Yeah, I had two kids. My wife was staying at home, and she's a school teacher, and literally when I told her I was going to open my own business, and we had some money and had some support, and had a couple prospective clients lined up, but my wife said, "Look, if you're going to open your own business, I'm going back to work because one of us needs to be getting a paycheck
Right.
and benefits."
Yeah.
So
And that is, I mean, there is a very practical, you've got to think about stuff like that, especially when you have children, obviously.
right, yeah.
So,
So yeah, I had two kids. Golly, probably first grade and fourth grade, or second grade and fifth grade, but right in that age range.
yeah. Do you feel like they knew that there was any vulnerability on your part professionally, or did they just not see that at all, that side of you?
My kids, no, they didn't notice. I mean, uh, they didn't, and I was very organized. Had an office space. I mean, today I'm working from the house. Still have an office, but a lot of days that I don't go to work. I'm sorry, a lot of days that I don't have meetings outside. I work from home.
Hmm.
That wasn't an option with kids at home. So my point is they still saw me get up every day, get dressed, and go to work.
Right. Right. Do you feel like this is a little unscripted, but do you feel like now that you've turned what was, an idea to start a business into a company that also does employee benefits and human resources consulting, you have to be a little bit more by the book than maybe you were initially, going
Ah,
into work and you start a
yeah,
company to be flexible and then you realize, oh, there are
yeah, yeah.
other
Well,
people that,
yeah.
yeah,
Look, the way I chose to scale, I ran what I always say was humbly called Starks and Company. That's what I opened. I ran that for 7 years. And then I had a friend of mine who was in the TPA business, third party administration business. He was the TPA I was using for all my self funded clients. He had a partner retire. So we started having a conversation, and, um, eventually I wound up rolling my business into the TPA business. So part of the way I was, first of all, I had at that point, I had four employees plus me, you know, and that, it's a whole nother story you can go into. Making the decision to hire that first employee
right, right,
is always just the hardest thing. And I had a
right.
mentor that told me that,
Yeah,
but once you do that, and she's gone and she's moved on with her life, but I really think her name was Trudy. She was so pivotal. She was the right hire, and she was so pivotal to me being able to grow and scale my business.
yeah, yeah,
So that I wasn't just a lone ranger out there. And had I not really grown my business, it wouldn't have been an attractive deal on either side to leverage my business with another business.
right, right.
So, you know, fortunately, as I really began to scale, I had another partner that really was good at the logistics side,
Right.
and I've always really focused on the sales and customer service side.
Right. That is a really good point. That part of growing the right way and not, a lot of times in that stage where you're at the 3 to 4 to 5 team members, the wrong hire is a big step back. So being really strategic and then also finding people that you don't want to find people that are you that replicate that, exactly what you do. You want to find people that complement what you do. And it sounds like you did that.
Yes.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about hiccups. So you knew you were through the no phase, you knew the business you wanted to start, you knew who you wanted to serve from a client perspective. Then you start growing by hiring people. What the grow phase is always, in my opinion, the phase with the most hiccups
Yeah.
because this is where you have personnel challenges. It's where you know, go hard in the wrong direction after a certain set of products or services that you realize is the wrong thing, or you don't. I talked in my another episode with Stephen Johnston, and he talks about he was a technical product, and he talks about product getting ahead of yourself and trying to sell a product that didn't exist, or that wasn't ready to go to market. So what are some of those hiccups? What did that look like for you?
I mean, I think I've been fortunate because I think I've always had a clear vision of what products and services were needed
Yeah,
and they were available. Either something I could do internally or the resources were available externally and I could leverage them,
yeah,
by, whether, it's a service I
yeah,
bought or whatever. So that wasn't it. The biggest challenge has always been the personnel.
yeah.
Um, and, one of the people I hired who was great with me as a small group, uh, with just, 3, 4, 5 employees, when we got to the bigger group with 20 employees, she didn't fit in. She didn't fit
Right,
the culture.
right.
No. And so I've got someone that served me well, was very pivotal to getting
Yeah,
me to that point that I had a business that was attractive, that somebody looked at it and said, he knows what he's doing. I want to partner with him, you
hmm
know, and, I had to let her go.
yeah,
And before I got to that point, if you will, some damage was done in terms of the
hmm
team,
hmm
clients, so, you know, knowing, making the right hire is pivotal. It's hard. Making the right termination at the right
that's right.
time
That's
is
right.
even harder.
Or keeping a good handle, not being so out of the business that sometimes we always say you want to work on the business, not in the business as a CEO, but you want to be enough in the business to know what's happening culture wise and if something is affecting other team members because that morale can go down
Yeah,
fast if
yeah,
there's a toxic environment and that can domino. It causes other
sure.
people on the team to either leave or
Yeah,
um, but I think it's good to not take it personally if somebody who was satisfied when you were a team of four and thriving in that environment may not thrive with a team of 20 or 25. I mean, I think that's okay. We don't need to take it personally, I think.
right, right.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do agree, but I do. I mean, I think one of my strengths is that I'm passionate about what I do and passionate about my friends and our employees, our team. You know, um, when I'm passionate when I gain a client. I'm passionate when I lose a client, and I really
Right.
do take it personally. I have
Everything.
to
Yeah.
take some time to process that and say, it really a little bit personal, but it's also business, and
Right.
so you have to reframe that. So my initial response is probably always, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Really internalize a lot of that. But the upside of that is I'm still caring and passionate and compassionate about
Yeah.
the people I work with and the clients I work with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Well, when do you feel like you started seeing that real growth, the kind of explosive, you realized that this was really going somewhere?
Yeah. Well, the first year after the merger was probably one of the best years we had,
Yeah.
and and actually right now this year we're on track to have a really dynamic year. I started this in 2000, and we in 2007 I merged with a company called BAS. In 2014, my partners at BAS, we partnered with some other friends and brokers and created this company. We are kind of our lead moniker, and we're working on all of our rebranding and everything, Acuity Group. So, now we're a group of, 50 employees with two other partners. And, uh, what I'm just saying is over that 20 years, you see a lot of cycles of really growth, like we've got this figured out. And then you see cycles where, you're affected by the economy. The
Mm-hmm.
economy turned down, at the end of the Obama years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and we felt it.
Mm-hmm.
The economy affects a business like ours.
Mm-hmm.
We serve other businesses.
Right.
So when we served a lot of oil company businesses in South Louisiana and South Texas, and when the oil field market dropped, that
Mm-hmm.
affects us.
Mm-hmm.
And you start thinking, what am I doing wrong? If anything, what we couldn't forecast the decline in the oil market.
Sure. Yeah.
We should have been more diversified.
Right.
Um, Over a prior few years, we really grew in the food service, restaurants, and that kind of stuff in those
Mm-hmm.
markets. Well, COVID crushed
Right.
those businesses.
Right.
You know? So we've seen, this year's been a good year. I know we're looking at a lot of economic factors going on, inflation and cost of things are going up.
Yeah.
Uh, but the market was bridled back, so there had to be some growth.
Yeah.
And people are trying to do things differently now.
Right.
So
Right.
so it's, if you ask me, yesterday we got word that we're going to pick up like 1,000-man group in April, and you need that kind of lead time to bring it
Right.
on. So
Right. Right.
yesterday it's like, well, we're doing everything great. We've got it all figured out.
Right.
But when we get in this position, I just had this conversation yesterday with one of my partners. We have to reserve and we have to anticipate that there's going to be another down cycle.
Right. Right. You have to be, I think being flexible and open to, um, just open. I think that's one of the hardest things for me is that because I do like to control when new things happen and they don't fit within my, my mindset of what I had. It takes me some time to reset and realize that, opportunities don't always look like what I planned for them to look like, but that doesn't mean they're bad opportunities.
Right, exactly.
Good.
And that's a very good point. That is a really good point. If is this business exactly what I thought it would look like when I started? Absolutely not. Is it anything like what I thought it would look like? Not much.
Right.
A lot of that's just the change in the industry overall.
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, sometimes what I think are going to be opportunities or not, and what I kind of discount as maybe not a good opportunity turns out to be one of the best.
Right. Right. Well, so what do you think kind of as we wrap up? I feel like we need to have a part two. There's probably a lot more we could talk about, but as we wrap up, what do you feel like your growth and success, and you can also speak to anything you want to speak to on the scaling end, like when you've got your systems in place and you're scaling, but what do you feel like is attributed to that success of actually being able to scale, and the success of your business?
Uh, that's a hard question. It's, you want to have vision, right? But a lot of it is just seeing the opportunity right before you,
Yeah.
and taking advantage of it
Yeah.
at that time. So, our success in scaling is probably that while we're looking ahead and we're trying to anticipate where the market's going to be 5 years from now, it's being aware of what opportunities are there now
Yeah.
and being nimble enough to respond. And I'll give you an example. When the Affordable Health Care Act passed, it totally changed the rules of engagement for clients with health plans or clients without health plans.
Mm-hmm.
But it opened up a level of complexity for compliance that we weren't suited to handle at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the need, we saw the opportunity. We hired one of the best HR people from one of our clients, and we tasked him with building a compliance division for ACA that obviously we didn't have before it passed.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was, we were rocking and rolling, the company was growing, but we recognized that if we didn't respond to that need in the market, it would hinder us growing further down the road.
Right. Good reminder to keep your head up instead of your head down in the work. I think that's a big lesson in that. Don't miss these things that are obvious that if your head's down, you miss.
Right. Exactly.
Well, any tips for an entrepreneur? If somebody's on the fence or has a side hustle and is starting to consider entrepreneurship, do you have any one snippet of advice you would give?
Well, I would say follow your gut. I mean, I think as much as anything, that's what it just can. And I'll just say, my family was a family of entrepreneurs, not building big businesses, but my granddad opened a construction company. Then my dad and his brothers all continue to work in it and run it. And, now it's moving into the fourth generation. And I think always watching my dad and my granddad and my uncles getting up and going to work for themselves and for their family
Mm-hmm.
really drove me. That's, I think, why I had that discontentment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you've got that feeling or if you've got that idea and nobody else is making it happen, you should go with it. Look, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And then you're going to start over.
Yep. So if somebody was interested in learning more about what you do or finding you online, I know you're very active on LinkedIn, so they can look you up, Eugene Starks on LinkedIn. But also, what's the website to your business and how can they find you there?
Well, it's acuity-grp.com. So ACUITY-grp.com.
Okay.
Or just email me at estarks@acuity-grp.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for being a guest today. I appreciate your insight.
Sure. Glad to do it.